All right, time now for the outside view in Washington. John Keim, ESPN's NFL Nation, covers the Washington football team. You know, I almost slipped up.
I know.
During that conversation with DeCecco, but I caught myself.
I know.
I caught myself. And John Keim, can you believe I've yet to say the former name of the team once this entire week?
Wow, that's impressive. I can say, like, for me, I would say publicly it's easier because you're so aware of it, and in stories you're writing it differently, so I'm always aware of it. Privately, I mess up all the time because, like, people don't know. It's easier if I'm talking to my wife, say, well, the football team, well, what does that mean? So you slip up there because it's easier, to be honest. But I try not, you try not to publicly. I don't think I've done that yet.
Yeah, I know you guys are doing it all day, all the time.
Yeah, that's right. For us, it's been, this transition was kind of easy because you're doing it 24/7 right away.
Expectations in Washington are
muted.
Wow.
And here's the reason I say that. I think it's this season is not set up for a team in there or the Giants' position to go out and have an impact. You have new head coach, although an experienced one, still new here. You have a young quarterback learning a completely new offense with a lot of new parts around him. So I just think, like, because of that, I think they know that it's going to be you don't want to. It's not about excuses. It's just the reality of it. I think they know there's a chance that they could struggle early, but I think if they finish strong, and strong means a good second half, I think they would probably come out of the season feeling okay, as long as it's not like, a 3-13 and they win their last two. That's not a strong finish. But, I think so. I think just what, like, Ron Rivera was talking about the other day was what he wants his goal is just play good football. And I think anybody who's followed this division knows that they haven't consistently done that for a long time. And so if you do that, eventually the success is there. It just takes time. They're in a bad spot for them to have the kind of success, to predict the kind of success that people here would want.
How exciting is that defensive line, though? You have Sweat, Young, Kerrigan, and if you look at the Eagles, and in particular this matchup, the offensive line is clearly banged up, and you would think that the advantage actually goes to Washington.
Oh, no doubt, because this is a good defensive front. And, you mentioned the defensive ends. Their defensive tackles are really good. Jonathan Allen, Matt Ioannidis, Deron Payne. So it's across the board. They've switched to a 4-3 front. And so, you have Young and Sweat at the ends. That's two long guys who should be really good in this defense, especially Chase Young. So, yes, that is – you want, like, for people here to have reasons for hope, it starts with that group, and it goes from there. And so I think what they feel is that they have the makings of what should be a good defense. But, again, the question I have for this entire group is when you look at the back seven is mostly new. And so when you have that, a big issue the last few years was communication. I just think it's a lot to ask. Again, in a new defense with a lot of new players, how do they communicate right away? And so that could be an issue, and especially like you saw it last year in the opener against the Eagles when Deshaun had the long touchdown, or just a communication breakdown. If they have that against this team, it's 7 points, and I think they know that. So that's just something to watch. But yeah, the optimism begins with that defensive front. There are some good young talented players here they can build off of. It's just I think they realize that you're not building it overnight. That's for sure.
Now, our old buddy Ronald Darby, who was obviously injury prone here in Philadelphia, but did start on a team that won the Super Bowl. How is he in that secondary? Is that an area as good as they are up front? Do they struggle in that area?
I think they actually felt pretty good about corner, but I say that, and that was with a healthy Kendall Fuller. Kendall Fuller, who was a really good slot corner, may have started on the outside, but regardless was really good in the slot when they go to three receivers. He's doubtful for Sunday, so that's a blow to them. Darby actually looked good this summer, and so I know I've paid attention enough to his career to know what the trajectory has been and what the issues have been. What I know is that he looked pretty good this summer, and I think they felt good about it. I think one thing that he likes is he's going to mix in a little bit more zone than he has played. But the key for him is, stay healthy and how do you attack the ball in the air. And so does he do those things? But he has looked good this summer. The other problem with that, without preseason games, you have to sometimes wonder, well, did he look good because he was playing well, or because you look at their receiver crew and it's not very deep? And so I think that's something you have to wonder. But there were things that he showed that, okay, a healthy Ronald Darby should look like that. He does have talent.
Yeah, it was frustrating because he was constantly hurt here. He, had that injury
Right.
in the game against Washington 2 years ago, and obviously couldn't stay healthy since. What do you think Rivera has done to just the franchise as a whole? I mean, obviously they've had their issues from the ownership group and the perception of this team. Has Rivera changed the perception of that team?
Well, I think he kind of grabbed the wheel of the Titanic and steered it away from the iceberg. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of what he's done, and it's a little bit like we don't really know if they're going to avoid the iceberg at this point or not, but he steadied the ship. And so I think that's what he has brought. He has brought a sense of, on the football side especially, because there's been so much attention, as you guys know, as everybody knows, a lot of attention on this franchise over the summer especially, and the culture. And this has been an issue for a few years. And I wrote something about this back in December after Bruce Allen was fired. So this has been an issue here. But the football side culture is different than the business side and the rest of the building. And I think what Rivera has been able to impact right away is the football side of the culture. And I think it's just a lot better. Now, I personally think that the way he's going about it is a good one. It's just that it takes time. And for him, it's about building relationships, establishing a foundation of a standard that you expect them to adhere to. That doesn't happen like right now. That takes time. But I do think in listening to guys and talking to guys that they feel like he's brought a sense of calm, and I think they like who they have in charge. Don't know what that'll translate into right away, but that's what he's done.
John Keim covers Washington for ESPN.com's NFL Nation. Obviously, I think a lot of this is going to depend on how far Haskins has developed and what he has around him. A lot of unknowns. McLaurin ripped the Eagles a couple of times last year. Yeah. So, too, did Haskins. Do you anticipate a big step forward starting Sunday?
I think I'll say this: he is a better quarterback than he certainly was at the end of than he was at this time last year. And I also think then overall in his overall game, he's better than he was at the end of last season. Now, at the end of last season, he was also comfortable in that offense, more comfortable. He had an offensive coordinator in Kevin O'Connell who kind of took. There was so much stuff going on here, but he kind of wrestled away some of the run-first philosophy that Bill Callahan wanted as an interim coach. So it was. So I think that he was finally being used the way that he needed to be used to a degree. I think that's why he had some success. But he is better because he's had a good offseason. But again, first year in this offense, and I do think that there's still definite questions about him. And, he's only had 21 career starts at a college or NFL level. That's not a lot. So he is still a quarterback developing. And I think that, internally – I think what they want, they know that they need to surround him with more talent. They know that they don't have the tight ends that you're going to need. They don't have that true number one tight end. They like Terry McLaurin a lot, obviously. Steven Sims, a slot receiver, very good. After that, it's all questions. So they know they need more to surround him with. So what you're going to look at with him is you have to go beyond the stats. How is he as a leader? Does he really develop there? And he's taken a step in the offseason and training camp. But does he do it during the season? How does he react when there's more adversity? How is he reading the defense? Is he maneuvering? Is he manipulating the safety enough when it's a single high cover three look, And so things like that, the decision-making, that's how they're going to also judge him in a deeper way. So he's had some practices where he's looked good, and he's had some practices where he's had some overthrows, and he's looked a little bit off. So, I think that he is definitely better than he was at this time last year by far. I just don't know what it translates into yet because there's a lot that I think we still have to learn. He's also slimmed down. He should be more mobile than he was last season too, and that he's not going to turn into Carson Wentz or someone like that. But it does add a little bit of an element to their offense. And I also think, finally, I don't mean to ramble on this one, but I think the other part of this, they're going to use a lot of two running back sets, but in a way where like the way the Eagles used to use with LaShawn McCoy and Darren Sproles. And it keeps you, as a defense, it keeps you a little bit more off balance. I think they're going to use a lot of those kind of looks to help. And they feel like he runs a lot of that stuff well, the RPO and stuff like that. So I think that should help him. But I think you're going to still see a lot of growing pains along the way here.
Surrounding him is obviously something they need to do. And with that being said, how do you feel about this offensive line? Do you think that they can hold down the fort against Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson?
I think that's a tall task because they have two very distinct sides of the line. The right side, you have very experienced with Brandon Sheriff at guard and Morgan Moses at tackle, and their center Chase Rouillet has been starting for a few years now too. On the left side, you have two new starters, Jaron Christian and then Wes Martin at guard. I like Wes Martin. I think he's a tough kid. We'll see him pass protection. I think there's been a couple of questions there. Jaron Christian, I think I'd feel more comfortable with him in pass pro than like with run blocking because I think there have always been questions about his quote-unquote play demeanor. And I think there were people here at the middle of last year who were very down on him. So I'll be curious to see, I think they like how he's developed, but I think there's still, there's a lot of questions about that side. And I would worry about a new side against an experienced defensive front and the things that they could do with an experienced coordinator, calling, whatever games they want to run. So I think that's going to be a definite something to watch because if you're going to have to give Haskins enough time. It's not like you have to have a 5-second pocket, but you can't have it breaking down within 2 seconds, right? You've got to give him 2.5 at least to throw. So because he is a pure pocket, he is a pocket passer, and he's got them. Like I said, he's increased his mobility, etc. But you can't have the quick pressure, and that's the thing you're going to have to watch Sunday in this one. So, yeah.
John Keim with us, covers the Washington football team, ESPN.com's NFL Nation. We talked at the beginning of this about, the expectations for the season. Any anticipation or expectations on this particular game? Philly's dominated this series. They've won down in Washington, I think it's 6 straight times. They typically bring a pretty good crowd. We know no one's going to be there. But what's the buzz about this game?
I think that actually from a fan's perspective, I think people are excited because they desperately want to change and they got it. And they wanted a different organization, and outside of the owner, which is kind of key, they have gotten that too. So I think there's a level of excitement, but I think it's as much for who they have there running the show as it is just for this particular game. Because I think most people know that this is going to be a team that's like you may not have instant success here, but I also think I'm not going to dismiss anything they could do because I do like what Rivera has done as far as the foundation, the mindset. And I think for them, he is viewing this as a measuring stick game right away. Like I think this is what I like. And he's very clear. I think a lot of coaches say this, but I think he's really clear with it. And I think guys buy into it. Like, if you want to be good in this division, you got to beat this team. This is the best team in the division and has been. You got to beat them. So I think he's selling that to the players. So, I think we'll see. I just think, like I said, personally think that it's very difficult to really think that they could come out and do a ton because there's been so much that should prohibit them from a quick start.
Well, it all happens right here Sunday on 97.3 ESPN. Washington, Philly, they seem to open up every single year. This year they'll open, this year they'll end. John Keim, ESPN's NFL Nation, covering the Washington football team, and he was kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. John, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. Great breakdown from him on the Washington football team. It gives you a little better sense of where they are.